let's head back to Gotham City, let's check up on The Dark Knight, and let's talk some spoilers. Let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well out there. And yes, I'm coming at you from a different location I normally record my reviews from, but my son is on track out here in North Carolina, so he's upstairs playing Fortnite with his friends. So here I am coming at you from a different location inside my home. But yeah, we're going to talk about The Batman, where review's going to be spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen the film yet, you don't want it spoiled for you, stop watching right now. Come on back and watch it after you've seen the film. Before we get into it, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Click on the little notification bell. That way, every time I upload a video, you'll get notified and you can come on back and see just what in the hell I got going on over here. And I had out of the theater reaction video that I uploaded on Saturday. I saw it Friday night with my buddy Dale _A from the Bat and Spider podcast. Please check those guys out. Tell them I sent you. Those guys are awesome. And as I said in my out of the theater reaction, when this film was first announced, I wasn't too thrilled. Matt Reeves is an interesting director. I like his two Planet of the Apes films. I like Let Me In. I think it's a really good remake. I didn't care for Cloverfield, but I don't like that handheld cinema stuff, so it wasn't really my thing. But Robert Pattinson, I was a little indifferent on his casting. I thought it was a weird casting choice. But then when the trailers started coming out, the first trailer didn't do much for me, but the other trailers kind of got me more and more excited. And I think it was just a few weeks ago, we went to see Uncharted in the theaters, and I got to see the trailer in IMAX, and I was like, I'm going to see it. Opening weekend. And me and Dale went to see it, and here we're going to elaborate on it. I did give it a 9 out of 10 out of the theaters. I've been thinking about it for a few days. Let's see if my score has changed at all. Now, The Batman just dropped on Thursday night last week. It's 2 hours and 55 minutes long. Yes, it's almost 3 hours long, although I will say I didn't really feel the runtime. Honestly, it pretty much flew by. Now, this is co-written and directed by Matt Reeves. We have Robert Pattinson as the Batman / Bruce Wayne, although he's not very much Bruce Wayne in this film. Maybe 10% Bruce Wayne, the rest of the time he's dressed in a bat costume. Zoe Kravitz plays Selina Kyle or Catwoman. We got Jeffrey Wright playing Lieutenant Gordon. We got Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. He's unrecognizable. He's under so much prosthetics, and he is fabulous in this movie. Paul Dano plays the Riddler, a very different Riddler than we've seen before. We got John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, and John Turturro is awesome. And Andy Serkis plays Alfred. Now, pretty much we catch up with The Dark Knight right at the beginning of the film, and we learn pretty quickly that he's been at it for 2 years now. So this is 2 years into Bruce Wayne being the Batman and trying to help Gotham get out of this crime-infested sewer that it has become. And the first thing you notice when this film starts, besides the introduction of the Batman, and it's great, the beginning of this film is phenomenal. Matt Reeves directs it beautifully. Robert Pattinson is awesome as the Batman. Bruce Wayne, as we'll get into it, he's not Bruce Wayne enough to get a gauge of what he's going to be like. He's pretty much the Batman when he's Bruce Wayne, and when, there's not really much of a difference. We'll see going forward. I would assume we're going to get a sequel. It had a very successful opening weekend, I think $250 million worldwide. So I would say we are going to see a sequel to this iteration of Batman. And the tone set right from the get-go. Now, I knew from reading some interviews and some articles that he was going for the tone of Seven. And it's very apparent from frame one that that's what he's going for. If you've ever seen David Fincher's Seven, which is a phenomenal film, Matt Reeves definitely captures that dark and grimy tone right from frame one of this film. And it carries out throughout the whole film. Most of this film takes place at night, in the rain. We do get a few daytime shots, but for the most part, this is a nighttime film. We're introduced to Gordon right in the beginning. We see the Riddler The Riddler is a serial killer in this film, and they basically based the Riddler, in interviews they've said it, on the Zodiac killer. And if you've ever seen David Fincher's Zodiac, the movie based on those killings in San Francisco in the 60s and 70s, you can definitely see the influences of the Zodiac in the Riddler in this film. And Paul Dano knocks it right out of the goddamn park. He's fantastic as this sick, demented guy who's very smart, not physically imposing, but very smart and witty and not afraid to kill people. And that's definitely it. We're introduced to Catwoman, or Selina Kyle. Zoe Kravitz is really, really good in the role, and she works at this club where a lot of the seedy where the mob hangs out, and a lot of the corrupt politicians and policemen hang out on any given night. And really in this film, I'm not going to go back into the plot. It's a Batman film, so there's no reason for me to get into it. Besides, the Riddler is the main bad guy, and the organized crime element and the corruption of the city, which Matt Reeves definitely goes for that, and takes its time to tell you and show you the corruption going on and just how deep and dark Gotham has sunk. It is a literal shithole, and they capture it beautifully. This is the darkest Gotham's ever been. I know Tim Burton's '89 Batman, with the architecture net and the sleaziness of the streets, he caught it pretty well. And I'd say Batman Begins caught that pretty well, like just the despair of Gotham. But this is definitely by far the darkest and dirtiest Gotham ever looked. And Gotham is definitely a character in this film, no doubt. And we see Batman doing detective work in this film. I know it's something, I know they touched on that in The Dark Knight, in Nolan's film, with him doing a little bit of detective work here and there, but they really dive deep into it here. Him trying to figure out these clues and these ciphers, the Zodiac, or not the Zodiac. That's how much closely the Riddler is to the Zodiac, because the Zodiac left ciphers too at crime scenes or mailed them to the police and the newspapers, and the Riddler does that here, leaving them for Batman and Gordon, and just trying to figure out who the Riddler is. And Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman has a different concerns. She's a friend that gets killed during the film, and she's trying to figure out who did it. And we find out that her mother used to work for Falcone, and she's actually Carmine Falcone's daughter. We find out towards the end of the film. And Andy Serkis plays Alfred. Now, he's not in the film much, but he's very good in the scenes he gets. He's very much a different Alfred. He's younger than our other iterations of Alfred, more grizzled iteration than our other Alfred, certainly more grizzled and younger than Michael Caine, who was awesome in the role, and certainly younger than Michael Goff that played Alfred in the Burton films and the Schumacher films. The cast here is fantastic. It's definitely the tone makes this movie what it is. Robert Pattinson is awesome as the Batman. When the action happens, he's brutal. I wouldn't say he's on the brutality level as Ben Affleck's Batman, because obviously in those films he killed people, and Zack Snyder really went for that R rating, especially in the Ultimate Edition of BVS and the Justice League. But the fights are well choreographed, well shot. You can tell what's going on. The Batmobile absolutely kicks ass. It's basically a souped up muscle car from the 70s, and it looks amazing, sounds amazing, and it's well utilized in this film. There is gadgets utilized, no, not on the scale of some of the other Batman films, but they definitely use some gadgets along the way in this film. But it's definitely this is probably the most grounded Batman film too. And I know Nolan prided himself, especially in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, of grounding those films, although there are definitely comic book elements to it and they stretch the believability. And this one's definitely the most grounded out of all the Batman films we've gotten so far. There's little hints of comic bookness here and there, but this is razor sharp in terms of its seriousness and just the dour atmosphere of what is going on. And the Riddler's killing people, kills the mayor first and then goes to other city officials, and it's all about this corruption that the Riddler is aware of from when he's a child. And when they finally catch Paul Dano, like his Riddler, in this diner across the street from where he was living, he's definitely a demented soul, but very smart. After the Riddler is captured, we get this awesome scene in Arkham Asylum between the Batman and the Riddler. And Robert Pattinson acts his ass off in the scene, does so much with not being able to see his whole face, just with his eyes. Now, he was worried that the Riddler knew who he was because the clues he was leaving. And when he finally gets his face to face, the Riddler keeps saying, Bruce Wayne. And the look of sheer horror on Batman's face, because he thinks the Riddler knows who he is and he's going to reveal his identity on this website he set up that is like kind of, that there's a video on there with him saying who Batman really is. And then when there's a moment when the Riddler says something and he realizes that he has no idea who the Batman is, and he goes right back into being, with bravado, the Batman, and intimidating and confident. But in that moment, it's almost like he got knocked down a peg into being a little kid again. And it's a really well done scene, and Paul Dano sells the shit out of it, and so does Robert Pattinson. It's a fantastic scene. Then we get our final action scene at this arena, because the Riddler had this plan. He sets off these bombs around Gotham and floods it from the river, because it sits below, I don't know if it's sea level or river level, and the water starts flooding in, and everybody takes refuge at the arena or the convention center. And he had recruited all these extremist people to be up in the rafters to snipe the people below, especially the mayor, this new mayor that got elected. And Batman has to stop him. Catwoman helps out. and so does Gordon. And that's pretty much the end, although we do get one final scene in Arkham between the Riddler realizing his plan did not go the way he thought, and he's kind of freaking out. But then a patient right next door to him starts talking to him, and they don't say who it is, but it's the Joker, because Matt Reeves has come out and said it's the Joker. And it's a really cool little thing, a little nugget to end the film on, and I was very excited to see where this could go. I don't know if they're even talking about bringing the Joker back, because it's hard to top what Heath Ledger did, and we already got another iteration of the Joker with Jared Leto and the Suicide Squad and Justice League, the Zack Snyder Justice League. So I don't know what their plans are. I've heard some other names of other villains thrown around, but overall, this movie is a really, really great film. It's very dark. Depending on how old your kids are, my son's 10. I don't think he's ready for it. So you gotta, it's razor thin that line between PG-13 and R. The Riddler is definitely a serial killer, and he acts like a serial killer, and there's some violence. I mean, it's not graphic, it's not like a hard R-rated film, but it's creepy, especially the killings in the beginning, the way he sets them up. It's really well done. It's in the vein of Seven, Zodiac, and even a little bit of Saw in terms of the Riddler, some of the things he does. But overall, I was very satisfied. This film exceeded my expectations. All the actors do really great work here. There's not one weak link in this film. If I had any negatives, I would say, and it's not really a negative, it's kind of a mixed thing. Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, again, he's not Bruce Wayne enough. He's maybe 10% of this film, Bruce Wayne, and the scenes don't last that long. There's one scene at a funeral that is probably the longest we see him as Bruce Wayne. And we get little interactions between him and Alfred throughout the film. So I need to see another film with him in it and more Bruce Wayne to get a feel for him in that side of the role. But he's fantastic as Batman. So it's not really a negative. My only negative is, even though I didn't think it felt like 3 hours, 3 hours is a long time for a film. I'm not against 3-hour films. I mean, Nolan's Dark Knight Rises is almost 3 hours long. It's close. I think it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think there probably is some things they could have cut out. There's probably about 10 minutes they could have shaved off this film. But overall, it's a minor complaint. This is a really well done Batman film and exceeded all my expectations from the start to finish. I was thoroughly satisfied. So yeah, I'm going to stick with my rating of 9 out of 10 for this film. Yes, 9 out of 10 for The Batman. Have you seen it yet? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this really great. Would appreciate that. I'll be back with a ranking video for all the Batman solo films, live action films, no animated films. But until then, bye.